Dear friends, for the month of June, the month of the most sacred heart of Jesus, let us reflect on God's love for us and our love for God with the doctor of divine love himself, St. Francis de Sales.
Chapter 14. Concerning fear of the judgments of God and confidence in his kindness. What gives me most apprehension is that I am told, besides your bodily afflictions, you are overwhelmed with a deep melancholy. I can well imagine how this must retard your complete restoration to health. Tell me, I implore you, what cause have you for feeding this sadness, which is so hurtful to you? I suspect your mind is still distressed by your fear of sudden death and of the judgments of God. Alas, how strange a torment is that! My soul, which endured it for 6 weeks, can well sympathize with those who are afflicted by it. There is a note here. St. Francis de Sales here alludes to the violent temptation of despair which he experienced whilst a student at Paris at the age of 16 years, and from which he was delivered by the help of the Blessed Virgin. End of note. But it is necessary for me to speak to you a little, heart to heart, and tell you that whoever has a true desire of serving our Lord and of flying from sin ought in no wise to torture himself with the fear of death or of the divine judgments. For although both the one and the other are indeed to be feared, still the fear ought not to be mere physical alarm, crushing the vigor of our minds. On the contrary, it ought to be so mingled with confidence in the goodness of God as to become sweet in consequence of it. And we ought not to begin to doubt whether we are in a position to confide in God when we feel difficulty in keeping ourselves from sin, or have mistrust and fear lest in particular occasions and temptations we shall be unable to resist it. Oh no, for mistrust of our own strength is not a deficiency of resolution, but a true acknowledgement of our misery. It is a better feeling to mistrust our own power in resisting temptations than to assume a confident attitude, provided always that we do not expect from our own strength, we do expect from the grace of God. For it has frequently happened that persons who, in the midst of consolation, promised themselves that they would do marvels for God, have failed when put to the trial. And others again, who greatly mistrusted their own strength and feared much that they would fail when put to the proof, have on a sudden effected marvels, because that deep feeling of their own weakness drove them to seek aid and succor from God, to watch, to pray, to humiliate themselves, that they might not enter into temptation. I further say that we ought in no wise to be distressed at not feeling within us force or courage to resist temptation, in the supposition of its occurrence at this moment, if only we desire to resist it, hoping that, if it did come, God would help us, and praying of him to grant us his help. For there is no need for us always to have the sensation of strength and courage. It is enough for us to hope and desire that we shall have it at the right time and place. Nor is there any need for us to feel within ourselves any sign or mark that we shall have that courage. It is sufficient for us to hope that God will aid us. Samson, who was called the strong man, never felt the supernatural strength with which God assisted him, except on occasions for it. And on that account it is said, when encountering lions or his enemies, that the Spirit of God came upon him. God, who does nothing in vain, does not give you either strength or courage when there is no occasion for it, but only when there is occasion. And so we must always hope that on all occasions he will aid us, provided only that we cry unto him. We should constantly use those words of David, "Why art thou sad, O my soul? And why dost thou disquiet me? Hope in God." And again, "When my strength shall fail, do not thou forsake me." Well then, since you desire to depend entirely on God, why do you fear your weakness, on which it is very true that you ought to place no kind of reliance? Do you not hope in God? And shall he that hopeth in him ever be confounded? No, he never shall be. I entreat you to pacify all the objections which may possibly arise in your mind. There is no occasion to make any other answer to them, except that you desire to be faithful on all occasions, and that you hope God will enable you to be so without attempting to find out whether that will be the case or not. For such attempts are very liable to deceive you. Many are valiant when they do not see the enemy, who are not so when he appears. Whilst, on the contrary, many are fearful beforehand, to whom the very presence of the danger gives courage. You must not fear being afraid. For the rest, God knows how much I would do and suffer to see you released from these temptations.
Always remember, be who you are, and be that well. May God bless you.